Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. I'm your host, Lukey, and for today's topic, I wanted to think about, what would be the next logical step if we went through the coaching approach. We talked about time management and making sure you have the time to actually do these things. And the third is to talk about mindset. So the next one that I thought would be helpful would be on health. So basically creating a strong foundation for you to get started in terms of your transformation, not just in your mental side, but also on the physical side. So why is it so important? Well, I mean, if you're not taking care of things like your sleep, your exercise, nutrition, then it makes life and success and all those goals that you want to achieve a little bit more challenging to have. So I liken it to, let's imagine that you go through life and you have to do a cross-country journey. So you're going from one side of the country to the other side of the country, and you prepare yourself. But what they do is they give you a 20-year-old car. And most cars will run pretty well for about, let's say, 10 years of their life. But 20 years, then someone really has to do a good job in terms of maintaining it. So if someone changed the oil regularly, replaced all the parts, and took it through regular maintenance, then the car will probably still continue to run very well for the next even 20 more, 100 more years. But if they didn't, if they neglected it, they didn't wash it, they didn't do all sorts of things to maintain it, then it'll be a little bit more of a bumpy ride and a more challenging journey. So think about that when it comes to your health. So things like sleeping. So sleeping is very important, mainly because there's actually studies out there that says that lack of sleep is equivalent to being mildly intoxicated. So if you get less than, call it 6 hours of sleep a night, then you're going around being mildly drunk. So make sure that you're not operating any heavy machinery during that case. And what that amounts to is when you're trying to achieve those goals and get to those things that you want to do, it's kind of like on your phone, you have that low power mode, but instead of being set to 100%, your low power mode might be set to 80% or 60%. So imagine going through every day and only operating at 60% productivity, at 80% productivity. How much more productive could you be with an extra 20%, with an extra 40%, whatever it may be for you? So getting a good night's rest can be so helpful. And the challenge with sleep is that people get used to it, right? If you're operating at that 80%, that 60% peak, you get used to it. So making sure that you actually allocate the time, which is why I encourage you for the model week, is to make sure you actually dedicate that time for sleep. The 7, the 9 hours, everyone is slightly different, but it's usually around that range for you to make sure you get a good night's rest. So when you have your sleep taken care of, then making sure you have some good exercise and movement around throughout your day. And it could be kind of anything simple for body weight exercises. So what I typically do is every day consistently, I will try to do some push-ups. I will try to do some crunches and sit-ups, some squats as well. And it might take no more than 10 minutes every day to do. But I do that consistently, daily, in order to make sure that I get some of that movement, that exercise. And there are studies that show that when you exercise in the morning, it helps with that sleep. So doing some of that, and depending on the type of person you are, you can do more cardio work, you can do more heavy weightlifting, because people are slightly different. So figuring out what it is that you need, but making sure to have some of that extra movement and exercise in your day. A couple of very quick things that you could do in order to add a little bit about that movement is to get off a little bit early. And what I mean by that, so if you're taking public transit, is to get off one stop earlier. And usually between stops, it's somewhere around 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20-minute walk to get from one stop to another. So if you do that, that's a great set of exercise. Now, you got to make sure that you're in the right neighborhood and you're not going to be going through any dangerous areas, be it like construction areas or other parts of the city, but just being mindful about that. Another could be in your building. So let's say you have an elevator. Get off a couple of stops earlier. So you are on the 10th floor, get off at the 8th floor, and then walk up the other ones. Or go down and get off on the second floor and then walk down 2 flights. anything to add a little bit more movement into your day. And it could be something as simple as that. And the last thing on the physical health part, well, there's a lot of things, but I'll close it off at your nutrition. So the food that you eat, and no matter how much exercise that you do, there's an expression that you can't outwork your mouth, right? So making sure that you have some quality nutrients that are coming in. And the simple guidance is to make sure it's real food, right? So thinking about the stuff that you eat, do you actually know where it came from? And not came from as in the grocery store. Like, do you know that it came from a tree that you picked it off of? That it came from the ground where you might have dug it out there? That it came from an animal in the wild, right? If it came from some sort of factory and it had to be assembled together with all sorts of preservatives and all that sort of stuff, you may not want to ingest that, because that becomes the building blocks of your body. Another simple thing for you to do is, as you eat, as you snack, or whatever you need to do, is to think about going to the fridge instead of the pantry, right? And why the fridge? Well, the fridge is usually where stuff needs to be kept cold, otherwise it will spoil, right? And what happens if it spoils? It's probably real food if it spoils. The stuff in the pantry, on the other hand, is meant to stay there for months, years on end. And all that chemicals and those things that are allowing it to stay on the shelf for such a long time is probably not stuff that you want in your body. So following some simple guidelines of eating real food, knowing where it came from, going to the fridge instead of the pantry, will allow you to make some better and more conscious food choices. And it doesn't really matter if you're going vegan or paleo or Atkins or whatever sort of diet that you may want to go after. The most important part is that you're making a conscious choice to choose your food, right? So taking a look at building some foundations for your physical health, getting a good night's rest, getting exercise, and also taking care of your nutrition, in addition to your mindset from the last episode, from your managing your time from the previous one, will allow you to coach yourself and allow you to get and do things to help you reach your career potential. So hopefully that was some useful SWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, and hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at LukiDanu, LukiDanu, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.